The antiseptic smell hit me first. Sharp, clinical, sterile. It always did. 8 months pregnant, and I'd grown accustomed to the scent of disinfectant clinging to my clothes, my hair, my skin. The waiting room of Dr. Morrison's private clinic hummed with quiet affluence. Leather chairs that didn't creak, abstract art that probably cost more than my annual salary, and a receptionist who smiled without showing her teeth. I shifted in my seat, trying to find a position that didn't make my lower back scream. The baby, my baby, pressed against my ribs like she was already fighting for space in this world. I placed both hands on the swell of my stomach, feeling her move beneath my palms. 7 months ago, I would have been terrified. Now, I was just exhausted. Mrs. Bennett? The receptionist's voice was honeyed politeness. She'd stopped correcting her when I said it was Miss Hartley now. Divorced women made people uncomfortable, especially in places like this. Yes? I looked up, pushing a strand of dark hair behind my ear. It needed washing. Everything about me needed attention I couldn't afford to give. Dr. Morrison is running a few minutes behind. There's fresh water and tea in the corner if you'd like. I nodded, not bothering to stand. The effort seemed monumental. Instead, I reached for the magazine on the side table, something glossy about homes I'd never own and vacations I'd never take. The pages felt expensive beneath my fingertips, thick and smooth. 6 months. 6 months since I'd signed those papers in a lawyer's office that smelled like old books and broken promises. 6 months since Marcus had looked at me across that mahogany table, with eyes that held nothing, not love, not hate, just absence, like I'd already been erased. The divorce had been quick, brutal in its efficiency. He'd wanted out, and I'd been too tired to fight, too tired to ask why, too tired to care that the man I'd married, the man I'd loved with the kind of desperate intensity that burns you from the inside out, had simply decided I wasn't enough. I'd found out about the pregnancy 2 weeks after the ink dried, 2 weeks after I'd moved into a studio apartment in a neighborhood where sirens sang me to sleep. 2 weeks after I'd started working double shifts at the diner on 5th Street, serving coffee to strangers who never looked at my face. Marcus didn't know, couldn't know. The baby was mine, my secret, my second chance, my reason to keep breathing when everything else felt like drowning. The clinic door opened, and cold air swept in from outside, carrying the scent of rain and expensive cologne. I didn't look up. Wealthy people came and went from places like this all day. Dr. Morrison catered to a specific clientele, the kind who paid cash and expected discretion. But then I felt it, that prickling awareness at the base of my skull, the sensation of being watched. I lifted my eyes slowly, reluctantly, and the world tilted. He stood in the doorway like he owned it, like he owned everything. Tall. I'd forgotten how tall, with shoulders that filled his black overcoat. His dark hair was shorter than I remembered, styled with the kind of precision that spoke of expensive barbers and regular appointments. A thin scar cut through his left eyebrow, barely visible but there, a reminder of a violence I'd never been allowed to understand. Alessandro Vitale, my ex-husband, the man I'd loved, the man I'd left, the man whose last name I'd taken and then abandoned, returning to Hartley like shedding a skin that never quite fit. And behind him, because there was always someone behind him, stood Marco, his driver, his shadow, his constant reminder that Alessandro lived in a world I'd only ever glimpsed. Marco's eyes swept the room with professional efficiency before settling on me. His expression didn't change, but I saw the recognition. Time stopped. Or maybe it was just my heart. Alessandro's gaze moved across the waiting room with the languid confidence of a predator assessing territory. Past the elderly woman knitting in the corner, past the receptionist who'd gone very still behind her desk, past the abstract paintings and leather furniture. Then he found me. His eyes, dark, almost black, the kind of eyes that held secrets and sins, locked onto mine. I watched something shift in his expression, saw the moment confusion gave way to recognition, saw recognition sharpen into something else entirely. His gaze dropped, slowly, deliberately, down to where my hands rested on the unmistakable swell of my pregnant belly. The air between us crystallized, became heavy, became dangerous. I couldn't breathe, couldn't move, could only sit there, trapped beneath the weight of his stare, feeling my daughter kick against my palms like she sensed the sudden shift in the atmosphere, like she knew her carefully constructed world was about to shatter. Alessandro's jaw tightened, just a fraction, just enough for me to notice. His hands, elegant and scarred in equal measure, flexed at his sides. The gesture was minute, controlled. But I'd been married to this man. I'd learned to read the subtle tells that meant danger. Marco shifted behind him, one hand moving inside his jacket. The movement was smooth, practiced, invisible to anyone who wasn't looking. But I was looking. I was always looking when Alessandro was in a room. "Mr. Vitale?" The receptionist's voice cut through the silence. Professional, respectful. "Afraid. Dr. Morrison is ready for you. Right this way." He didn't move, didn't acknowledge her, didn't take his eyes off me. The seconds stretched. Each one felt like an eternity. I could hear my heartbeat in my ears, could feel sweat forming at the base of my spine despite the air conditioning. My daughter shifted again, a rolling movement that pressed against my bladder and made my breath hitch. Say something, I thought desperately. Move. Look away. Do anything but sit here like prey. But I couldn't, because this was Alessandro, and Alessandro had always had the power to turn me to stone with just a look. Finally, he moved. One step forward, then another. His shoes were Italian leather, polished to a mirror shine, silent against the clinic's expensive flooring. He crossed the room with the fluid grace of something wild, wearing human skin. He stopped 3 feet away, close enough that I could smell his cologne. Cedar and bergamot and something darker. Something that whispered of smoke and shadows. Close enough that I had to tilt my head back to meet his eyes. Ella. My name in his voice. Deep. Rough, like gravel wrapped in silk. He'd always said my name like it was a prayer and a curse in equal measure. I opened my mouth, closed it, tried again. Alessandro. His eyes dropped to my stomach again. This time, they stayed there. I watched his throat work as he swallowed, watched his hands curl into fists, watched the muscle in his jaw jump. How far along? The question was quiet, too quiet. The kind of quiet that preceded storms. 8 months. The words came out barely above a whisper. Mathematics played across his face. I could see him counting backwards, calculating, understanding. Mine? The single word held universes. Hope, rage, possession. Things I didn't want to name. I should have protected my daughter from this world of shadows and violence that clung to Alessandro like a second skin. But I'd never been good at lying to him. I started, but he moved. Suddenly, impossibly, he was crouching before me, eye level, close enough that I could see the flecks of gold in his dark irises, close enough that his heat radiated against my skin. His hand reached out, slowly, giving me time to pull away, and settled on my stomach, palm flat, fingers spread, covering where our daughter pressed against my womb. The touch was electric, gentle, reverent, completely at odds with the dangerous tension radiating from every line of his body. "Mine," he repeated. Not a question this time, a claim, a declaration, a promise. And beneath his palm, my daughter kicked. Alessandro's eyes flew to mine, wide, shocked. Something vulnerable flickering across his features before he could lock it down. His other hand joined the first, cradling my stomach like it was made of glass. Ella. My name again, but different now. Breathless. Awed. "Ella, why didn't you tell me? We were divorced," I managed. "You didn't want—" "Don't." The word cracked like a whip. His hands tightened fractionally. "Don't tell me what I want." The baby kicked again, harder this time. And Alessandro's expression transformed. Wonder. Pure, unfiltered wonder, the kind of expression I'd never seen on his face before. "Mr. Vitale." The receptionist's voice held an edge of desperation now. Dr. Morrison is waiting. Alessandro didn't look at her, didn't look at anything but me and the child growing beneath his hands. Cancel it, he said, still not looking away, still touching me like I might disappear if he let go. Sir, I don't think. Marco. One word. One name. That was all it took. I heard Marco move, heard the receptionist's sharp intake of breath, heard the quiet murmur of voices and the unmistakable rustle of money changing hands. We're leaving, Alessandro said. His hand slid up to cup my face, thumbs brushing my cheekbones, eyes searching mine with an intensity that made my lungs forget how to work. You and me and our baby, we're leaving, right now. I have an appointment. I'll get you the best doctors in the country, the world, whatever you need. Alessandro, I can't just... Yes. He leaned closer, his forehead almost touching mine, his breath warm against my lips. You can. You will. Because that's my child, Ella, my daughter. And I have spent 6 months in hell thinking I'd lost you forever. I'm not losing you again. I'm not losing her. Do you understand? It wasn't a question. It was a vow. And God help me, I felt something crack open in my chest. Something I'd sealed shut the day I signed those divorce papers. You let me go, I whispered. The accusation hung between us. You signed the papers. You walked away. Pain flashed across his face. Raw. Real. I know. And I've regretted it every single day since. His hands trembled against my skin. Actually trembled. Let me fix this. Let me protect you. Both of you. Please. The please undid me. Alessandro Vitale didn't say please, didn't beg, didn't show weakness. But here he was, on his knees in a clinic waiting room, asking. My daughter kicked again, persistent, demanding, like she was casting her vote. Okay, I breathed. Not thinking, not planning, just feeling. Okay. Alessandro's eyes closed, just for a moment, like I'd given him something precious, something he thought he'd lost forever. When they opened again, they burned. Marco, he called, standing and pulling me up with him. His hand was gentle but unyielding on my elbow. Bring the car around. Now. Yes, sir. And just like that, my carefully controlled world dissolved. Alessandro's arm wrapped around my waist, protective, possessive, guiding me toward the door. I caught a glimpse of the receptionist's face. Pale, shocked, already reaching for her phone. The cold air hit us like a slap. Rain misted down, turning the city streets into watercolor paintings. A black Mercedes with tinted windows idled at the curb. Marco held the door open, his expression unreadable. Alessandro helped me inside like I was made of porcelain. His hands were everywhere, my back, my arm, my stomach, like he couldn't stop touching me, couldn't confirm I was real. He slid in beside me, and Marco closed the door, sealing us in leather and shadows. The car pulled away from the curb, and I watched the clinic disappear in the side mirror. Watched my old life fade into rain and distance. Alessandro's hand found mine. Laced our fingers together. Brought my knuckles to his lips. You're mine again, he murmured against my skin. You were always mine, and now. His free hand settled on my stomach again. Possessive, protective. Now, you're never leaving. It should have terrified me, should have sent me running, but all I felt was the heat of his touch and the weight of his promise, and the undeniable truth that some prisons were made of devotion instead of bars. The Mercedes moved through the city like a shadow, silent and smooth. Rain streaked the tinted windows, turning the world outside into an impressionist painting. Blurred lights, gray buildings, people reduced to shapes hurrying beneath umbrellas. Inside, the leather seats were warm, the air perfumed with that mixture of expensive car and Alessandro's cologne that made my head spin. His hand hadn't left my stomach. Not once. His palm rested there with a possessiveness that should have frightened me, but instead felt like an anchor. Like the only solid thing in a world that had just tilted sideways. Where are we going? My voice sounded strange in the quiet cabin. Small, uncertain, home. His thumb traced circles over the fabric of my dress. Slow, deliberate. each rotation sending sparks up my spine. I have a home. His jaw tightened. I watched the muscle jump beneath the stubble that shadowed his face. Not anymore. You can't just... Ella. He turned to face me fully, and the intensity in his eyes stole whatever protest I'd been forming. You're 8 months pregnant with my child. You've been living God knows where, doing God knows what, without me. Without protection, without resources. His other hand came up to cup my face, forcing me to meet his gaze. Those days are over. Do you understand? I've been managing fine. Something dark flickered across his features. Fine? You call working yourself to exhaustion while carrying my daughter fine? You call living alone, vulnerable, in this city, fine? How do you... I stopped, stared at him. How do you know where I've been living, what I've been doing? He had the grace to look away, just for a moment. When his eyes returned to mine, they held no apology. I've always known where you were, Ella, every single day since you left. The words hit me like ice water. You've been watching me? Protecting you. His correction was immediate, sharp. There's a difference. That's not... I pushed at his chest, trying to create space, but his arm around my waist tightened. Not painfully, just enough to keep me close. That's not okay, Alessandro. You can't just spy on people. I can when they're mine. No hesitation, no doubt. Just absolute certainty that made my breath catch. I'm not yours. Not anymore. We're divorced, remember? His laugh was bitter, dark. A piece of paper doesn't change what you are to me. What you've always been. His forehead dropped to touch mine. You think I could just let you go? Just stop caring whether you were safe? Whether you were eating? Whether you were... His hand on my stomach pressed more firmly. Whether you were carrying this, you signed the papers, I whispered. The accusation tasted like ash. You let me walk away. I thought I was doing the right thing. His voice cracked. Actually cracked. Alessandro Vitale, who I'd never seen show weakness, who moved through the world like violence wrapped in expensive suits, sounded broken. I thought I was protecting you. From me. From my world. From everything I touch that turns to poison. Then why? Because I was wrong. He pulled back just enough to look at me. Really look at me. Because 6 months without you has been hell. Because I wake up reaching for you and find nothing. Because I see your face in every crowd and it's never you. Because... He stopped, swallowed hard. Because I love you. I've always loved you. And finding out you're carrying my child, that you've been going through this alone. His hands trembled again. I can't. I won't. Not anymore. The car turned, and I felt the change in road texture, smoother, quieter. We were heading into the part of the city where money whispered instead of shouted, where buildings had doormen and security cameras hidden in tasteful architectural details. Alessandro, this is insane. You can't just kidnap me. I'm not kidnapping you. His thumb brushed my cheekbone. I'm bringing you home. There's a difference. Against my will. Is it? He leaned closer. His lips brushed my temple, feather-light, devastating. Against your will, Ella, because your pulse is racing, your pupils are dilated, and you haven't actually tried to leave. He was right. Damn him, he was right. I should have been fighting, screaming, demanding Marco stop the car. Instead, I sat there, my traitorous body responding to every touch, every word, every heated look. I hate you, I tried, but the words came out weak, unconvincing. Liar. He smiled. Actually smiled, and it transformed his face from dangerous to devastating. You've never been good at lying to me. The car slowed, then stopped. Through the rain-streaked windows, I saw it. The building I'd tried so hard to forget. 30 stories of glass and steel and luxury. The penthouse where I'd lived as his wife. Where I'd learned to love a man who lived in shadows. Marco opened the door, umbrella already deployed. Alessandro slid out first, then turned to help me. His hands were gentle on my arms as he guided me from the car. one palm immediately returning to the small of my back, as if he couldn't bear not touching me. The doorman, Thomas, I remembered his name was Thomas, looked up. His eyes widened. Mrs. Vitale. Miss Hartley, I corrected automatically. Alessandro's hand on my back turned to steel. Mrs. Vitale, he said, each word precise, dangerous. My wife, ex-wife, I muttered, but he was already guiding me toward the elevator. Marco followed 3 steps behind, water dripping from his dark suit, eyes scanning the lobby with professional paranoia. The elevator was empty, private. It went only to the penthouse. Alessandro had bought the entire top floor years ago, turning it into a fortress of luxury and security. The doors closed, and suddenly the space felt too small, too intimate, too filled with his presence and his heat, and his hands that wouldn't stop touching me. You can't keep me here, I said, watching the numbers climb. 25, 26, 27. I'm not keeping you anywhere. His breath was warm against my ear. You're free to leave whenever you want, but you won't. How do you know? Because it's raining, because you're exhausted, because you're 8 months pregnant and your feet are swollen and your back hurts and you need to rest. He pressed closer, because deep down, beneath all that anger and pride, you know you belong here, with me. The elevator chimed. 29. 30. The doors opened onto the private foyer I'd walked through 1,000 times as his wife. Marble floors, original artwork, a security system that cost more than most people made in a year. Alessandro guided me inside, and the door closed behind us with a soft click that sounded like finality. The penthouse looked the same, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. Furniture that cost more than cars. Everything in shades of gray and black and white, stark and beautiful and cold. But then I noticed the differences. Flowers. Everywhere. White roses in crystal vases on every surface. My favorite. He'd remembered. And on the coffee table, a stack of books. I moved closer, Alessandro's hand never leaving my waist. Pregnancy guides, parenting manuals, what to expect when you're expecting, with pages marked by sticky notes in Alessandro's sharp handwriting. How long? I asked. My voice was barely audible. How long have you known? 3 weeks. He moved to stand behind me, his other hand joining the first on my stomach, cradling the swell of our daughter between his palms. Marco saw you at the clinic. You were checking in for an appointment. He called me immediately. 3 weeks. He'd known for 3 weeks and hadn't approached me. Hadn't said anything. Just watched. Prepared. Why didn't you? Because I was afraid. The admission came out rough, broken. Afraid you'd run. Afraid you'd hide from me. Afraid I'd push too hard and lose you both. His arms tightened around me, so I waited. Had Marco follow you to make sure you were safe. Made arrangements. Prepared this place. And told myself that the next time I saw you, I wouldn't let you go again. I turned in his arms, not easy with my pregnant belly, and looked up at him. Really looked. For the first time since the clinic, I let myself see past the danger and the power and the control. Let myself see the dark circles under his eyes, the new lines around his mouth, the way his hands shook slightly when they touched me. You look tired, I said. He laughed. The sound was hollow. I haven't slept properly in 6 months. Not since you left. Alessandro, I know what you're going to say. His thumb traced my lower lip. That this is too much. Too fast. Too intense. That I should give you space. Time. Let you make your own choices. He leaned down until his forehead touched mine. But I can't, Ella. I've tried. God knows I've tried. But you're here now, carrying my child. And every instinct I have is screaming at me to protect you, to keep you close, to make sure nothing in this world can hurt you. That's not healthy, I whispered. I never claimed to be healthy. His smile was sharp, self-aware. I'm a lot of things, Amore, but healthy isn't one of them, especially when it comes to you. The baby kicked. Hard. Right where his hands rested, his eyes widened. That same wonder I'd seen at the clinic transforming his features. Does it hurt? He asked. when she moves like that? Sometimes. Mostly it's just strange, like having someone else living inside you. She's strong. Pride colored his voice, just like her mother. How do you know it's a girl? His smile turned secretive. I know everything about you, Ella, including the fact that you had a gender reveal ultrasound 2 weeks ago. Pink confetti. You cried. The invasion of privacy should have enraged me. Instead, I felt something else. Something warm and dangerous spreading through my chest. You're insufferable, I said. And you're beautiful. He kissed my forehead. Soft, reverent, even more beautiful than I remembered. Pregnancy suits you. I'm huge. You're perfect. His hands roamed my stomach with a gentleness that contradicted everything I knew about him. Absolutely perfect. And she's perfect. And I'll be damned if I let either of you out of my sight again. Alessandro, you can't just... A phone buzzed. Alessandro's jaw tightened. He pulled a sleek device from his pocket, one of several, I remembered, and glanced at the screen. Whatever he saw made his expression harden. Marco, he called. His second appeared from wherever he'd been hovering. Status: the clinic receptionist made 4 calls after we left. 2 to gossip sites, 1 to her sister, 1 to an unknown number. Alessandro's hand on my stomach tightened fractionally. Handle it. Already done. The photos are contained. The gossip sites have been persuaded to drop the story. And the unknown number? Traced to a burner phone. Location downtown. We're working on identification. I felt Alessandro's entire body tense. The change was subtle but complete. The man holding me transformed from gentle lover to something else entirely. Something dangerous. Double the security, he said. His voice had gone cold, flat. The voice he used when giving orders, when dealing with threats. Full surveillance on Ella's old apartment. Track everyone who's been watching her building in the last month, and find out who owns that burner phone. Yes, sir. Marco disappeared, and Alessandro's attention returned to me. But something had shifted. His eyes were darker now, harder. What was that about? I asked. Nothing you need to worry about. Alessandro, no. He cupped my face, firm, unyielding. This is my world, Ella, the part I kept you away from, the part I divorced you to protect you from. But you're carrying my child now, and that makes you a target. Whether you like it or not, fear, cold and sharp, slice through me. What kind of target? The kind that means you don't leave this penthouse without me. The kind that means Marco or one of my men is always nearby. The kind that means... He stopped, breathed deeply. The kind that means I will kill anyone who even thinks about hurting you. He said it so calmly, so matter-of-factly, like he was discussing the weather instead of murder. You're scaring me, I whispered. Good. He pulled me closer, protective, possessive. You should be scared. This world I live in, it's not safe. It's not clean. And now that people know about you, about the baby... His arms tightened around me like a cage made of muscle and bone and desperate need. Now you're mine to protect, mine to guard, mine to keep safe no matter what it costs. This is insane. Welcome to my life, Mrs. Vitale. He kissed my temple, then my cheek, then the corner of my mouth. Each touch was a brand, a claim. You signed up for this once before. Time to remember what that means. The first night back in Alessandro's penthouse, I didn't sleep. How could I? The bed was too soft, too familiar, too filled with memories of nights when his body curved around mine like a shield. The sheets smelled like him, that intoxicating mixture of cedar and bergamot that had haunted me for 6 months. And every time I closed my eyes, I felt his hands on my stomach, heard his voice promising to protect me, saw that dangerous intensity in his dark eyes. Around 3 a.m, I gave up. My daughter was awake anyway, performing acrobatics against my ribs, like she was training for some kind of in utero Olympics. I pushed myself up, an ungraceful maneuver that involved rolling sideways and using my arms for leverage, and padded out of the bedroom. The penthouse was dark except for the city lights filtering through the floor-to-ceiling windows. 30 stories below, the world moved in streams of red and white, taillights and headlights painting rivers through the rain-slicked streets. From up here, Everything looked small, manageable, safe. I knew better. Can't sleep? I jumped, hand flying to my chest. Alessandro stood in the doorway of his office, backlit by the glow of multiple computer screens. He'd changed from his expensive suit into black pants and a white shirt with the sleeves rolled up, exposing forearms corded with muscle and decorated with scars I'd traced 100 times with my fingertips. "You scared me," I breathed. "I'm sorry." He moved toward me with that predatory grace that always made my pulse quicken. "I heard you moving around, wanted to make sure you were all right." "I'm fine. Just restless." His eyes dropped to my stomach. They always dropped to my stomach now, like he couldn't help himself, and softened. "She's active tonight?" "Apparently she's nocturnal." A smile ghosted across his lips. Genuine. Warm, the kind of smile I'd fallen in love with before I understood what loving Alessandro Vitale really meant. "Takes after her father." He closed the distance between us and, without asking permission, placed both hands on the swell of my belly. The touch was becoming familiar again. Natural. Like his hands belonged there. Our daughter kicked against his palms, and his smile widened. "Strong," he murmured. "Definitely takes after her father." "Stubborn," I countered. "Definitely takes after her father." He laughed. Actually laughed. And the sound warmed something in my chest I'd thought frozen. His forehead dropped to touch mine. And for a moment, we just stood there in the darkness, connected by our daughter's movements between us. "Come here," he said finally, taking my hand. "I want to show you something." He led me down the hallway to a door I'd assumed was still the guest room. But when he opened it, I forgot how to breathe. A nursery. Complete and perfect, and exactly what I would have designed if I'd had unlimited resources, and someone who understood me completely. The walls were painted a soft sage green, calming, gender-neutral. Exactly what I'd once told him I'd want for a baby's room during a late-night conversation I thought he'd forgotten. A white crib stood against one wall, already made up with sheets patterned with delicate woodland creatures. A rocking chair sat by the window, positioned to catch the morning light. Shelves lined with books, board books, picture books, classics I'd loved as a child. And in the corner, a mobile hung above a changing table, tiny felt stars and moons spinning slowly in the air conditioning's gentle current. "When did you—" I couldn't finish the sentence, couldn't process that he'd done this. In 3 weeks. While I'd been struggling alone in my studio apartment, trying to assemble second-hand baby furniture from online marketplaces. The day after Marco told me, his hand found the small of my back again, that constant point of contact he seemed to need. I had designers working around the clock, told them to create the perfect room for our daughter. "Alessandro, this is too much. It's not enough." He turned me to face him, his hands framing my face with a gentleness that contradicted the intensity in his eyes. "Nothing I do will ever be enough to make up for not being there these last months. For not knowing. For not protecting you. I didn't tell you. You shouldn't have had to." His thumbs traced my cheekbones. "I should have known. Should have felt it somehow. You're my wife. Ex-wife." His jaw tightened. "That changes. Tomorrow." I blinked. "What? We're getting remarried. I've already made arrangements. You can't just—" I pushed at his chest, but he didn't budge. "Alessandro, you can't just decide we're getting married again. That's not how this works." "Then tell me how it works." He backed me gently against the wall, caging me in with his arms on either side of my head. Not threatening. Just present. Unavoidable. "Tell me how I'm supposed to let my pregnant wife live separately from me. Tell me how I'm supposed to sleep knowing you and our daughter aren't protected. Tell me," his voice cracked. "Tell me how I'm supposed to survive losing you again. You're the one who let me go. Biggest mistake of my life." He leaned closer, his breath warm against my lips. "One I'm not repeating. You're mine, Ella. You've always been mine. And that baby you're carrying, she's mine too. My family. My responsibility. My everything. This is crazy. Yes. No hesitation. No denial. I'm crazy about you. Crazy protective. Crazy obsessed. I've always been crazy when it comes to you." His hand slid down to rest on my stomach again. "But now there's her to think about, and I promise you, Amore, I will burn this entire city down before I let anything happen to either of you." The scariest part was that I believed him. "I need time," I whispered, "to think, to process all of this." "You have until tomorrow afternoon, Alessandro. Non-negotiable." He kissed my forehead, soft, final. "We're doing this right, legal, binding, unbreakable. You'll have my name again, my protection, my resources, everything that's mine becomes yours." "I don't want your money, I know." His smile was tender, devastating. "That's one of the reasons I love you. You never wanted any of this, the wealth, the power, the status. You just wanted me. I wanted the version of you that didn't terrify me. That version doesn't exist." Brutal honesty. "I am terrifying, Ella. I've done things that would make you run screaming. I've hurt people, destroyed lives, built an empire on blood and fear and ruthlessness." His hands tightened on my stomach, protective, possessive. "But I have never, not once, hurt you, and I never will. That's the promise I can make, the only one that matters." Our daughter kicked, as if agreeing with him. Traitor. "I'm exhausted," I admitted. The adrenaline from the last 12 hours was wearing off, leaving me hollow and shaky. "Then let me take care of you." He scooped me up, actually picked me up like I weighed nothing despite my pregnant belly, and carried me back to the bedroom. The gesture should have been ridiculous. Instead, it felt inevitable. He laid me down gently, arranging pillows behind my back and under my knees with the kind of careful attention that made my throat tight. Then he stretched out beside me, one hand immediately finding my stomach again. "Sleep," he commanded softly. "I'll watch over you both. You need to sleep too." "I will. Later. Right now." His thumb traced circles over where our daughter pressed against my womb. "Right now, I just want to feel her move, want to memorize this, make up for all the moments I missed." I should have sent him away, should have maintained boundaries, should have protected my heart from falling back into the trap of loving Alessandro Vitale, but I was tired, so tired, and his warmth was seeping into me, his presence making me feel safer than I had in months, and my traitorous body was already relaxing into the familiar comfort of having him near. "Just tonight," I murmured, eyes drifting closed. "Every night," he corrected. His lips brushed my temple. "For the rest of our lives." I wanted to argue, wanted to fight. But sleep pulled me under, and the last thing I felt was Alessandro's hand on my stomach and his whispered promise in Italian. Words I'd learned during our marriage, words that meant mine, always mine, forever mine. Morning came with sunlight and the smell of coffee. I blinked awake slowly, disoriented. The bed was empty beside me, but I could hear movement in the other room. Voices. Alessandro's deep rumble and Marco's quieter responses. I pushed myself up, wincing at the stiffness in my back. Pregnancy at 8 months was a special kind of torture. Everything hurt, nothing fit, and I had to pee constantly. I shuffled to the bathroom, caught sight of myself in the mirror, and grimaced. My hair was a disaster. My face was puffy. The dress I'd fallen asleep in was wrinkled beyond salvation. When I emerged, Alessandro was waiting. He'd showered and changed into fresh clothes. Charcoal pants and a black shirt that probably cost more than my monthly rent. He looked perfect. Dangerous. Mine. No. Not mine. Not anymore. "Good morning." He crossed to me immediately, hands reaching for my stomach like a compass finding north. "How did you sleep?" "Better than I have in months," I admitted reluctantly. Satisfaction gleamed in his eyes. "Good. I've had breakfast prepared. Come." He guided me to the dining room, where the table was laden with enough food to feed an army. Fresh fruit, pastries, eggs prepared 3 different ways, toast, juice, coffee, decaf, I noted. He'd remembered. "This is too much," I said. "You need to eat. For her." His hand hadn't left my lower back, that constant proprietary touch that was becoming normal again. "Sit. I'll fix you a plate." "I can fix my own plate. I know you can." He pulled out a chair, waiting. Humor me. There was something in his voice, something vulnerable beneath the command. So I sat and watched as he filled a plate with careful attention to nutrition and variety, remembering what I liked, what made me nauseous, what I craved. He set it before me and took the seat beside mine, close enough that our thighs touched, close enough that I could feel his heat. His attention never wavered from me as I ate, dark eyes tracking every bite like he was memorizing it. "Stop staring," I said around a mouthful of scrambled eggs. "Can't help it." His hand found my knee under the table. "Squeeze gently. I've missed watching you do ordinary things. Eating, reading, existing. That's creepy." "I know. No shame, no apology. I've been told I'm obsessive when it comes to you. Apparently divorce doesn't cure that. Apparently not." Marco appeared in the doorway, expression neutral, but tension evident in the set of his shoulders. "Sir, we have a situation." Alessandro's entire demeanor changed. The gentle lover vanished, replaced by something cold and lethal. "What kind of situation?" Someone's been asking questions about Mrs. Vitale, about the pregnancy. I felt Alessandro's hand on my knee turn to stone. "Who?" "We're still investigating, but they've been persistent, professional. They know things they shouldn't." "Like what?" Marco's eyes flicked to me, then back to Alessandro. "Like where she's been living, where she works, her doctor's appointments." Ice flooded my veins. "Someone's been following me?" "Following, photographing, documenting." And Marco's voice was carefully neutral. "For at least 2 months. 2 months, before Alessandro even knew about the pregnancy. Someone else had been watching me, tracking me, building a file on my life." Alessandro stood so abruptly his chair scraped against the floor. "I want names. I want locations. I want every piece of information we have on whoever is doing this." His voice was deadly calm, the kind of calm that preceded violence. "And I want it within the hour. Already working on it." Marco nodded once and disappeared. I stared at my half-eaten breakfast, suddenly nauseous. "Alessandro, what's happening?" He was beside me in an instant, crouching so we were eye level. His hands framed my face, forcing me to look at him. "Nothing you need to worry about. I'm handling it. Someone's been stalking me for 2 months and you want me not to worry? They won't get near you again. Stone-cold certainty. I promise you that. Whoever they are, whatever they want, they're done. Finished. I'll make sure of it." "How?" His smile was sharp, dangerous. Nothing warm or gentle about it. "You don't want to know the answer to that question, amore." He was right. I didn't. But as I sat there in his penthouse, surrounded by luxury and protection, and the suffocating weight of his obsession, I realized something terrifying. I was trapped. Not by bars or chains or locked doors. Trapped by my own heart, by the daughter growing inside me who kicked whenever he spoke. By the part of me that felt safer in his dangerous arms than I ever had alone. Alessandro Vitale had let me go once. I'd thought I'd escaped, but looking at him now, at the possessive intensity in his eyes, the protective fury radiating from every line of his body, the absolute certainty that I belonged to him, I understood the truth. He'd never really let me go at all. He'd just been waiting for the right moment to pull me back into his orbit, and now, carrying his daughter, I was caught. Completely, irrevocably. The golden cage door had closed, and God help me, part of me was relieved. 3 days passed in Alessandro's penthouse like being suspended in amber, beautiful, suffocating, unreal. He worked from home, converting his office into a command center where Marco and various other men in expensive suits came and went with alarming frequency. I heard fragments of conversations through closed doors, words like surveillance, threat assessment, and containment, that made my stomach clench with anxiety I tried to ignore. But when Alessandro was with me, all of that disappeared. He became someone else entirely, someone attentive and gentle, and so intensely focused on my well-being that it felt like standing in the sun. He'd arranged for Dr. Morrison to make house calls. Apparently enough money could convince anyone to abandon professional boundaries. She'd examined me in the nursery Alessandro had created, her practiced hands checking my blood pressure. measuring my belly, listening to our daughter's strong heartbeat, while Alessandro watched from the doorway with an expression that looked like prayer. "Everything looks perfect," Dr. Morrison had said, packing up her equipment. "The baby is healthy. Good position. You're doing wonderfully, Ella." Alessandro had paid her in cash. An obscene amount that she'd accepted without blinking, probably understanding that discretion was part of the transaction. Now, on the fourth morning, I stood in the nursery alone, running my fingers over the crib's smooth wooden rails. Outside, rain fell in sheets, turning the city into a watercolor blur. Inside, everything was warm and safe and expensive. Too expensive. Too perfect. Too much like a dream I'd wake from. "She'll sleep here." Alessandro's voice came from behind me. I hadn't heard him approach. He moved like smoke when he wanted to. "Right next to our room, close enough that we'll hear her the moment she needs us." "You mean close enough that you can watch over her obsessively," I corrected, not turning around. His arm slid around my waist from behind, hand settling on my stomach with that possessive reverence that had become constant. "Yes," he agreed without shame. "That too." I leaned back against his chest despite myself. He was warm, solid, real, and my body remembered being held by him, remembered the safety of his embrace even when my mind screamed warnings. "Alessandro, we need to talk." About all of this." I gestured vaguely at the nursery, the penthouse, the life he was building around me without my permission. "About what happens next. About the wedding tomorrow." His lips brushed my temple. "I know. Everything is arranged." I turned in his arms, which was becoming increasingly difficult with my pregnant belly. "I didn't agree to that." "You will." Such absolute certainty, like my agreement was inevitable, predestined. "Because you're practical, Ella. You always have been. And you know that being my wife again protects you. Protects her." His hand pressed against where our daughter rolled beneath my skin. "Gives her my name, my legitimacy, my world. Your dangerous world. Every world is dangerous." He cupped my face, tilting it up so I had no choice but to meet those dark, intense eyes. "But mine comes with resources to fight back, with power to protect what's mine, with me between you and anything that would hurt you. What about the person who's been following me? Have you found them yet?" Something flickered across his face. Fury, cold and lethal. "We're close. That's not an answer. It's the only answer you're getting." His thumb traced my lower lip. "Trust me to handle this, Amore. Trust me to keep you safe. I trusted you before. You divorced me." Pain lanced through his expression, raw, real. "And I've regretted it every day since. Every hour. Every minute." He pressed his forehead to mine. "I thought I was protecting you by letting you go. Thought my world was too dark, too violent, too corrupted for someone like you. Someone pure and good and innocent. I'm not innocent. You are compared to me." His hand slid into my hair, cradling my head. "You have no idea what I've done, Ella. What I'm capable of. The things I've ordered. The blood on my hands." "Then tell me." "No. Immediate. Final. That's one thing I'll never do. You don't need that darkness in your head. Don't need to see me as the monster I am. You're not a monster." His laugh was bitter. "You only think that because I've been very careful about what you see. But I am, Amore. I'm a monster who loves you, who would kill for you, who would burn the world down if it meant keeping you safe." His hands tightened in my hair. Not painful, just desperate. "Does that terrify you?" "Yes," I whispered honestly. "Good. It should." He kissed my forehead. Soft. Reverent. Complete contradiction to his words. "But know this. I would never hurt you. Never. You and our daughter are the only pure things in my life. The only things worth protecting." Our daughter chose that moment to kick. Hard. Right where Alessandro's hand rested on my stomach. He smiled. Actually smiled. And the transformation was stunning. All that darkness and danger melting into something tender. "She agrees with me," he said. "She has terrible judgment. She has her father's stubbornness." He knelt then, right there in the nursery, and pressed his lips to my stomach, whispered something in Italian I couldn't quite catch. Something about protection and love and promises. When he looked up at me, his eyes were wet. Alessandro Vitale, Mafia boss, dangerous man, killer probably, crying over our unborn daughter. "I'm going to be a good father," he said. Not a question. A vow. "I'm going to give her everything, protect her from everything, love her the way I love you, completely, obsessively, without reservation. That's what I'm afraid of," I admitted. He stood, pulling me close again. "Then be afraid, but don't leave. Don't take her away from me. Let me do this, Ella. Let me be your husband again. Let me be her father. Let me prove I can be better than I was." "You can be her father without us being married." "I want both." His jaw set, stubborn, immovable. "I want the ring back on your finger. Want my name attached to yours. Want everyone who looks at you to know you're mine. Protected, untouchable." "That's not romantic, Alessandro. That's possessive." "I know." No apology. I've never claimed to be romantic. I'm possessive and jealous and probably a little bit insane when it comes to you, but I'm also devoted, loyal, completely yours in ways that would terrify most people. He leaned down, lips brushing mine. Not quite kissing, just present. "Tomorrow you're marrying me, and this time, I'm never signing divorce papers. Never letting you walk away. Never making the mistake of thinking I can survive without you." Before I could respond, Marco appeared in the doorway. His expression was carefully neutral, but I'd learned to read the subtle signs. The tension in his shoulders. The way his hand rested inside his jacket where I knew he kept a gun. "Sir, we found him." Alessandro's entire body went rigid. "Where?" "Downtown, warehouse district. He's been staying in a room above a pawn shop. We have eyes on the location. Equipment? Professional-grade surveillance, multiple cameras, files on Mrs. Vitale going back 4 months. Marco's eyes flicked to me, then away. "And others." "Others?" I asked. My voice sounded thin, afraid. Alessandro's hand on my back pressed more firmly. Protective. "How many others?" "6 that we've identified so far. All women, all pregnant, all," Marco hesitated, "all connected to families in our world." The room spun. I grabbed Alessandro's arm for balance, and he immediately wrapped himself around me, supporting my weight. "He's targeting pregnant women?" I managed. "Appears so." Marco's voice was professionally calm, like he discussed sociopaths targeting vulnerable women every day. Maybe he did. "We're still piecing together his endgame." "I want him." Alessandro's voice had gone flat, empty, the kind of empty that preceded violence. Alive, contained, ready for interrogation within the hour. Already in motion. And the others? The other women? "We're reaching out to their families now, warning them, offering protection." Alessandro nodded once. Marco disappeared. And I stood there in my beautiful nursery, surrounded by expensive furniture and woodland creature mobiles, realizing that the danger wasn't some abstract concept. It was real, immediate. Targeting women exactly like me. "I'm going to be sick," I whispered. Alessandro had me in the bathroom instantly, holding my hair back while I heaved into the toilet. Nothing came up. I hadn't eaten enough. But my body tried anyway, rejecting the fear flooding my system. When the spasms passed, he dampened a washcloth and wiped my face with a gentleness that made my eyes burn. "This is my fault," I said. Tears were streaming down my cheeks now, hot and unstoppable. If I hadn't left you, if I'd stayed, none of this would have happened. I'd have been protected. "Stop." He cupped my face, forcing me to look at him. "This is not your fault. None of this. You left because I pushed you away. Because I made you feel unwanted. Because I was too much of a coward to admit I needed you more than I needed to protect you from my world. Someone's been watching me, photographing me, planning..." "What?" "What was he planning, Alessandro?" His jaw tightened. "I don't know yet, but I will find out, and then I will make sure he never threatens anyone again." "You're going to kill him." He didn't deny it. Didn't even try. "Would you prefer I didn't?" I should have said yes. Should have been horrified. Should have run screaming from this man who discussed murder like it was a business transaction. Instead, I thought about someone watching me, following me home to my studio apartment, photographing me through windows, planning something terrible for me and my unborn daughter. No, I whispered. I wouldn't prefer that. Something fierce and satisfied blazed in Alessandro's eyes. Good, because he's already dead. He just doesn't know it yet. He helped me up, supporting my weight as my legs shook, led me back to the bedroom, tucked me into bed like I was something precious and fragile. Rest, he commanded. I need to handle this. Marco will be right outside the door. You're safe here, Ella. I promise. Where are you going? To have a conversation with the man who's been watching my wife. The word wife came out like a claim, a threat. It won't take long. He kissed my forehead, then my lips. Soft, sweet. Complete contradiction to the deadly intent radiating from every line of his body. Alessandro. I caught his hand as he turned to leave. Be careful. His smile was sharp, dangerous, beautiful. I'm always careful, amore. It's everyone else who needs to worry. He left. The door closed, and I lay there in the too soft bed, hands on my stomach, feeling our daughter roll and kick beneath my palms. This was my life now. Luxury and danger, protection and violence. A man who loved me enough to kill for me without hesitation. Tomorrow I would marry him, would take his name again, would bind myself to him legally, permanently, irrevocably. And the terrifying part? I wanted to. Not because he was forcing me, not because I was trapped, but because somewhere in the last 4 days, I'd remembered what it felt like to be loved by Alessandro Vitale. Completely, obsessively, with an intensity that bordered on madness. I'd remembered what it felt like to be chosen, protected, cherished. I'd remembered that I loved him too, had never stopped loving him, even when I signed those divorce papers. Even when I convinced myself I was better off alone. My daughter kicked again, and I smiled through my tears. Your father is insane, I whispered to her. Possessive and jealous and probably dangerous, but he loves us. And maybe that's enough. Hours passed. The rain stopped. The city lights came on, turning the world outside into a constellation of artificial stars. Alessandro returned as darkness fell. I heard him before I saw him, heard the water running in the bathroom, the rustle of clothes being changed. When he finally came to bed, he smelled like soap and his expensive cologne, but underneath, something else. Something metallic and wrong, blood. He smelled like blood. He slid in beside me carefully, like he was afraid of waking me. But I was already awake, had been awake for hours. Did you kill him? I asked the darkness. A long pause. Then, not yet, but I will. After I know everything. Will you tell me what you learn? No. His hand found my stomach, that constant anchor point. You don't need that in your head. Don't need to know what he planned, what he wanted. I'm not fragile. I know. He pulled me closer, careful of my belly. But you're mine to protect, and part of protecting you means keeping the darkness away. Even when it's my darkness, I should have argued. Should have demanded the truth. Should have insisted on being treated like an equal instead of something breakable. Instead, I turned in his arms and kissed him. It was our first real kiss since I'd left. Not the gentle brushes he'd been giving me, not the careful pecks, but a real kiss, deep, desperate, full of 6 months of loneliness and longing and love I'd tried so hard to bury. He groaned against my mouth, his hands tangling in my hair, his body pressing against mine as much as my pregnant belly allowed. When we finally broke apart, we were both breathing hard. Tomorrow, he whispered against my lips, tomorrow you're mine again, legally, permanently, forever. Forever is a long time. Not long enough. He kissed me again, softer this time, sweeter. Not nearly long enough for everything I want to do with you. I fell asleep in his arms, listening to his heartbeat, feeling our daughter move between us. And for the first time in 6 months, I felt safe. Tomorrow, I would marry a monster, but he was my monster, and that made all the difference. The morning of my wedding, again, dawned clear and bright. Sunlight streamed through the floor-to-ceiling windows, painting everything gold. I woke to find Alessandro already gone, his side of the bed cold, but a note left on his pillow in his sharp, precise handwriting. Getting ready to marry you is the only reason I'd leave this bed. See you soon, Mrs. Vitale. A Mrs. Vitale. The name I'd abandoned. The name I was taking back. I pressed my hand to my stomach, feeling my daughter's morning stretches. What do you think? I whispered to her. Am I making a huge mistake? She kicked. Once. Firmly, like she was casting her vote. That's what I thought. A knock on the door, and then a woman I'd never met entered carrying garment bags and makeup cases. She was maybe 50, elegant, professional, with kind eyes that assessed me quickly. Mrs. Vitale, I'm Marie. Mr. Vitale hired me to help you prepare. Her voice held a slight French accent. I've brought several dress options, all designed to accommodate your beautiful condition. Several turned out to be 7, each one more stunning than the last. Flowing silk that draped over my belly like water, delicate lace that made me look ethereal, soft chiffon and champagne that caught the light. I chose the champagne. It felt right. Not white. I wasn't that innocent anymore. Not black. This wasn't a funeral. Something in between. Something that acknowledged both the purity of new beginnings and the reality of where we'd been. Marie worked magic with makeup, covering the dark circles under my eyes, making my skin glow, emphasizing my features without making me look like someone else. She left my dark hair down, just added subtle waves and pinned one side back with a delicate clip that looked antique. When I looked in the mirror, I barely recognized myself. I looked beautiful, radiant, like someone worth marrying. He's a very lucky man, Marie said softly, adjusting the dress one final time. I'm not sure that's true, she smiled, knowing. A little sad. I've worked for Mr. Vitale for 5 years. I've never seen him look at anyone the way he looks at you, like you're the only thing keeping him human. The words settled over me like a weight, or maybe wings. I wasn't sure which. Another knock. Marco this time, impeccably dressed in a dark suit, his expression neutral but something softer in his eyes when he saw me. You look beautiful, Mrs. Vitale. I'm not Mrs. Vitale yet. In every way that matters, you've always been Mrs. Vitale. He offered his arm. Mr. Vitale is waiting, if you're ready. Was I ready? To bind myself to a man who divorced me once, who lived in shadows and violence, who loved me with an intensity that was probably unhealthy. My daughter kicked again, insistent, demanding. I'm ready, I said. Marco led me through the penthouse to a room I'd never seen before. Alessandro must have had it specially prepared because it had been converted into something magical. White flowers everywhere, roses, peonies, orchids, their scent filling the air. Candles flickered despite the daylight, adding warmth and romance. A small altar stood at one end, where a judge waited in official robes. And there, turning as I entered, was Alessandro. He wore a black tuxedo that fit him like a second skin, perfectly tailored to his broad shoulders and lean waist. His dark hair was styled back, emphasizing the sharp angles of his face, the intensity of his eyes. The scar through his eyebrow caught the light. He looked dangerous, powerful, devastating. But it was his expression that stole my breath. Pure, undiluted wonder. Like I was something miraculous, something impossible, something worth dying for. He crossed to me in 3 long strides, took my hands in his, and just looked. His eyes roamed my face, dropped to my belly, came back up. I watched his throat work as he swallowed. Ella, he whispered, my name like a prayer. You're so beautiful it hurts to look at you. You clean up pretty well yourself. He smiled, that rare, genuine smile that transformed him from dangerous to devastating. Ready to be mine again? I'm not sure I was ever not yours. Something fierce blazed in his eyes. He brought my hands to his lips, kissed each knuckle with reverent attention, then tucked my hand into the crook of his arm and led me to the altar. The ceremony was brief, intimate, just us, Marco as witness, the judge reading words about commitment and partnership until death. Alessandro never took his eyes off me. never stopped touching me, his hand on mine, his thumb tracing circles on my skin. His entire focus narrowed to this moment. When the judge asked if he took me as his wife, Alessandro's voice was steel wrapped in silk. I do. Always. Forever. In this life and whatever comes after. When it was my turn, I looked into those dark, intense eyes and saw my future. Complicated. Dangerous. Imperfect. Perfect for me. I do. I whispered. Alessandro's hands trembled as he slid the ring onto my finger, not the one from our first marriage. Something new. A band of platinum with diamonds that caught the light like captured stars. Beautiful. Elegant. Unmistakably expensive. With this ring, he said, voice rough with emotion, I promise to protect you, to cherish you, to love you with everything I am, even the dark parts. Especially the dark parts. You and our daughter are my world, Ella. My reason for breathing. My reason for being human instead of monster. Tears streamed down my face. I didn't try to stop them. The judge pronounced us married, and Alessandro pulled me into his arms, careful of my belly, and kissed me. Deep. Thorough. Claiming. The kind of kiss that spoke of possession and devotion, and promises sealed with tongue and teeth and desperate need. When we finally broke apart, I was breathless, dizzy, completely his. Mine, he whispered against my lips. Finally. Completely. Legally mine. Yours? I agreed, because it was true. Had always been true. Would always be true. Marco cleared his throat. Congratulations, sir. Mrs. Vitale. He handed Alessandro an envelope. This just came from our team downtown. Alessandro's expression hardened fractionally. He opened the envelope, scanned the contents, and something cold settled over his features. The gentle lover vanished. The dangerous man returned. What is it? I asked. He looked at me, then at my stomach, then back at the papers in his hand. Whatever internal battle he fought lasted only seconds. The man who was following you, he said carefully. We know who hired him. Ice flooded my veins. Who? Marcus. The name came out flat. Dead. Your ex-husband hired someone to surveil you. The world tilted. I grabbed Alessandro's arm for balance and he immediately wrapped himself around me, supporting my weight. Marcus? But why would he? The baby. Alessandro's voice was deadly calm. He thought she might be his, wanted proof before making a custody claim. Rage. Pure incandescent rage flooded through me. She's not his. She was never his. We'd been divorced for 2 months before I stopped. Looked up at Alessandro. Wait. How does he know about the pregnancy at all? The clinic receptionist. She sold information to a gossip site. They reached out to Marcus for comment since you were technically still married when you would have conceived. Alessandro's jaw tightened. He put 2 and 2 together, hired surveillance to confirm, was building a custody case. Over my dead body. That won't be necessary. Alessandro's smile was sharp. Lethal. I've already handled it. Handled it how? Marcus Hartley is currently boarding a flight to Singapore, with a very lucrative job offer that requires immediate relocation. For at least 5 years. His hand pressed against my stomach, protective, possessive. He signed documents relinquishing any potential claim to children from your previous marriage. Legally, permanently, irrevocably. I stared at him. You bought him off. I convinced him that his best interests lay elsewhere. Alessandro cupped my face. He was never going to have her, Ella. Never. I would have burned the world down before letting another man claim my daughter. She's not even born yet, and you're already being possessive. I'm going to be possessive over her for the rest of my life. No apology. Just fact. She's mine. You're mine. And I protect what's mine. Our daughter kicked, as if reminding us she had opinions too. Alessandro laughed, actually laughed, and dropped to his knees right there, pressing his face against my belly. Your mother thinks I'm crazy, he told her. But you understand, don't you, Piccola? That I would do anything, to keep you both safe. She kicked again. Harder. Like she was answering him. She agrees with me, Alessandro said. looking up with that rare, genuine smile that made my heart stutter. Smart girl. Takes after her father. Terrifying thought, I murmured. He stood, pulling me close again. I have something for you. He reached into his jacket and pulled out a small box. Not the ring box. That was already on my finger. Something else. Inside was a key, ornate, old-fashioned, beautiful. What's this? To a house. He watched my face carefully. About an hour outside the city. Gated property, security, privacy, a garden, rooms for her to grow up in. Space for you to breathe without feeling trapped in a penthouse. Tears burned my eyes again. Alessandro, I know you felt caged here before. Know you need space, freedom, room to be yourself instead of just my wife. His thumb caught a tear as it fell. So, I bought you space. A place that's yours, where you can raise our daughter, where you can be happy. You bought me a house. I bought us a home. He kissed my forehead, because I'm done making the mistakes I made before. Done pushing you away to protect you. Done thinking I know what's best without asking what you need. His forehead dropped to touch mine. I love you, Ella, and I'm going to spend the rest of my life proving it. Every single day, even when you're sick of me. Even when I'm overprotective, even when my world gets dark and dangerous, and you wish you'd married someone normal. I don't want normal, I whispered. I want you. The kiss he gave me then was different from all the others. Softer. Sweeter. Full of promise instead of possession. Full of partnership instead of control. When we broke apart, he rested his hand on my stomach one more time. Thank you. He said quietly, for giving me this, for giving me her, for giving me another chance to get this right. Don't make me regret it. I won't. Steel wrapped in silk, a vow, a promise. I swear on everything I am, everything I have, I won't. 2 weeks later, I stood in the garden of our new home, feeling the sun on my face and my daughter's movements beneath my palms. The house was beautiful, modern but warm, spacious but intimate, exactly what I would have chosen if I'd had unlimited resources and someone who understood me completely. Alessandro had been true to his word. He worked from a home office, refusing to leave me for more than a few hours at a time. He attended every doctor's appointment, read every pregnancy book, prepared the nursery with meticulous attention to detail. He was there when I couldn't sleep, when my back ached, when I craved strange foods at midnight. He was there. Constantly. Completely. Sometimes overwhelmingly, but he was also gentle, patient. Understanding when I needed space. Backing off when I asked. Learning to love without consuming. Marco had found us in the garden one afternoon, his expression carefully neutral as always. The surveillance equipment has been destroyed, he reported. All files deleted. The man responsible has been dealt with. He paused. Permanently. Alessandro had simply nodded, no elaboration, no details. Just acceptance that some problems were solved with violence. I should have been horrified, should have questioned what permanently meant. Instead, I felt relief, and maybe that made me a monster too. Now, as I stood in the garden feeling the first real contractions ripple through me, I called for Alessandro, not panicked, just certain. It's time, I said when he appeared, instantly alert. His eyes went wide, then focused, then determined. Within minutes, we were in the car. Marco driving, Alessandro beside me in the back, holding my hand, timing contractions, murmuring reassurances in Italian and English. The hospital was a private facility, top tier, where Alessandro had apparently made arrangements weeks ago. They were expecting us, had a suite prepared, had the best obstetrician in the state on call. Labor was long, painful, exhausting. But Alessandro never left my side. Not when I cursed him. Not when I cried. Not when I screamed that I hated him, and this was all his fault. He just held my hand and told me I was strong, told me I could do this, told me our daughter was almost here. And then she was. Small. Perfect. screaming her fury at the world with impressive volume for someone who weighed barely 7 pounds. The nurse placed her on my chest, and I looked down at her tiny face. Alessandro's eyes, my nose, a shock of dark hair, and felt my heart crack open completely. "She's perfect," I whispered. "She's ours." Alessandro's voice was thick with emotion. His hand settled on our daughter's head, careful and reverent. "Completely, absolutely ours." They took her to clean and measure while the doctor finished with me. When they brought her back, swaddled and calm, Alessandro reached for her with shaking hands. I watched him hold our daughter for the first time, watched his expression transform into something I'd never seen before. Pure, unguarded love, wonder, awe, fear. "Hello, Piccola," he whispered to her. "I'm your father, and I promise you, I swear to you, nothing in this world will ever hurt you. Not while I'm alive. Not ever." She opened her eyes, dark, unfocused, searching, and seemed to look right at him. Alessandro broke. I watched tears stream down his face, watched this dangerous man who killed without hesitation cry over the tiny person in his arms. "I love you," he told her. "More than I knew I could love anything. You and your mother. You're everything. My whole world. My reason for being human." He looked up at me then, and the love in his eyes was almost painful to witness. "Thank you," he said, "for her. For this. For giving me a reason to be better than I am." "You're already better than you think," I said softly. "I'm going to spend the rest of my life proving that to both of you." He sat beside me on the bed, careful not to jostle our daughter. What should we name her? We'd discussed names, made lists, debated endlessly. But looking at her now, there was only one name that felt right. "Sophia," I said. "It means wisdom, hope, light in darkness." Alessandro's smile was
Sophia
radiant.
Vitale.
"Perfect." He kissed my forehead, then Sophia's, then looked at both of us like we were miracles. "My girls," he whispered. "My whole world." Months passed. Sophia grew from tiny newborn to smiling baby, the house filled with her laughter, her cries, her endless curiosity. Alessandro was completely, absolutely devoted. Changing diapers at midnight, walking the floors when she wouldn't sleep, reading to her in Italian and English from the moment she could focus on his face. He was overprotective, yes. The house had security that would make the Pentagon jealous. He vetted every nanny, every doctor, every person who came within 10 feet of his daughter. But he was also gentle, patient, present in ways I'd never expected. And with me, he was everything. Attentive, loving, still possessive, still intense, but tempered now by understanding, by compromise, by genuine partnership. We had date nights, Marco babysitting with an entire security team as backup. We had quiet mornings in bed while Sophia napped. We had arguments and makeups and all the messy, complicated reality of building a life together. It wasn't perfect. His world was still dark, still dangerous. There were still nights when he came home smelling like violence, when Marco delivered reports that made his jaw tighten, when I remembered exactly what kind of man I'd married. But he was my man, and I was his woman. And together, we were Sophia's parents. That was enough. More than enough. One evening, as I stood in Sophia's nursery watching Alessandro rock our daughter to sleep, singing softly in Italian, I felt complete peace settle over me. This was my life. Complicated, imperfect, sometimes terrifying, but mine. Alessandro looked up, caught me watching, and smiled. "Come here, amore." I crossed to them, and he pulled me into his free arm, holding both of us, his girls, his world. "I love you," he whispered against my hair. "Both of you. More than I have words for. I love you too," I said, and meant it completely. Sophia sighed in her sleep, content and safe in her father's arms. And I realized that sometimes the golden cage wasn't a cage at all. Sometimes it was just home. Sometimes the monster turned out to be the hero. And sometimes, love that felt like possession was actually just devotion wearing an intense disguise. Alessandro kissed my temple, then Sophia's head, then looked at me with eyes full of promises kept and futures yet to come. "Forever," he said, not a question. A fact. "Forever," I agreed, because some things, some people, were worth falling for, worth staying for, worth building a life for, no matter how complicated or dangerous or absolutely insane that life might be. This was ours, messy and beautiful and real, and I wouldn't trade it for anything.